Let's continue with the next part of parts, which is again two parts which are kind of similar and again hinge on teaching. One is on-site training, the other one is live workshop or cohorts online. So the main differences between offsite and online, and another thing that will differ is on-site training is done at companies through HR, right? And the cohort-based learning, etc., is getting traffic independently from the web and doing it offline. So basically, on-site training is upskilling at companies, which products like Udemy are trying to capture even more and more. And the number of employees are also decreasing. People are not willing to spend as much on training, from what I understand. And the bigger problem is the reputational aspect of it, right? The HR will hire only through their connections. So almost all the companies I have worked in, the bigger ones, the same trainers used to come every year, and that doesn't make sense because like why should the same trainer come every year? I'm not saying they were not good at what they did. The decent ones were good, but they weren't not all of them were growing always at the rate of market growth in terms of knowledge and technology. So yeah, that model was always broken. It might still be working. People might be doing certain trainings, and like in my personal case, I'll be doing technical trainings, right? It's not the leadership and communication skills and those kind of things for freshers, if at all they happen now. But the problem is reputation, right? To get to those contacts again, I'll have to be a thought leader or something, not thought leader, but something equivalent, kind of a reputation on LinkedIn, X, where generally these people hang out. And then the HR has to be, I have to discover the HR, then get in touch with them, cold email them, etc., then build that reputation. And there's no guarantee next year it will happen, or go and join some training institute, which is as good as employment. They will take the lion's share of saying that, see, we bring contracts, so why should we pay you more and all those things. So then doing it on Udemy is easier because you don't see your oppressor. that that helps, right? And on-site training, the other problem is you don't know the requirements, what they want. Teaching someone C++ is pointless. Just C++ without knowing what they are actually going to use to apply it, because there are a lot of other tools around it which you need to learn to get specific things done. And I know that personally because I have used C++ in embedded application side as well as infrastructure side. The use of language was almost similar, but its impact was very different. And the kind of tools I had to use to figure out things were also varying. Like running a perf on a client side application is kind of pointless. You're just running a couple of threads at most. But when you're doing on the infra side, then every byte, every cache miss matters. So then you have to understand perf, you have to understand hardware, you have to understand the actual latency of the product, what is required, and the data, etc. So it's a much bigger problem. That's what principal and staff engineers are supposed to be doing, right? But in IT companies, they don't exist. And in IT companies, teaching people C++ is as good as just reading out syntax to them from the documentation, right? So, like I said, people want to learn to get rich, whether it's a school, college, training, everything is the same. HR pays a lot of money just to show that, see, we are doing training. The metrics for measurement are like, how will you measure whether the training succeeded or not? The students rating, well, if they were bored, they were looking for entertainment, and they got knowledge, then they will rate you, give you a low rating, because they cannot rate something which they didn't know before the trainer showed up. So I have been in good and bad trainings as well, but none of them were uh, immediately applicable because they were designed for a curriculum and they were applied in the different context when it came to production. So that mismatch is inherent; it cannot be removed. And giving those exact requirements on LinkedIn, etc., doesn't happen. Like we have been discussing all this while, that the matching algorithms are always constrained by the inputs. If inputs are not accurate, they will always find weak matches. And the inputs for on-site trainings are always weak. Like we have hired interns, teach them C++ so that they can start running production immediately. If what is your CI/CD framework, what you are putting in production, etc. If you start asking for those details, then you go to the next person who will say yes, come there for 5 days, teach the syntax start to end, and go. So you will get syntax junkies who will try to code their way out of everything. Where asking a why was more important, they will answer it with how, right? And most of them are trying to fill their resumes. So again, it's a very frustrating process getting the right kind of training profile to get going. And as I said, the discoverability will be reputation based, which I don't have, and I cannot build overnight. And the same applies to the live workshops and cohort kind of thing. That if somebody wants to learn about databases, then pick a open source database, put it in anti-gravity, ask 50 questions, and you will have your answers. Why do you need another instructor? If you are not a self-starter, then buying a C++ cohort is not going to help you. And if you are a self-starter, you will just figure out things. Like why do you need something else? Then what you need is to understand how the algorithms and LLMs are working in the knowledge curation ecosystem for a consumer, right? So that's when you need to learn. Then NotebookLM or Google Notebooks is useful. How to use Claude Code to scrape through databases and build intermediate artifacts, which can be then further built into some more understanding material, which is not easily available in documentation. Because a lot of good open source projects have a lot of explanatory documentation around their design as well. And that's what you need to understand, that how something came into being, like reading design data intensive applications, DDI, designing data intensive applications, explains you a lot of things. But looking at code is also mandatory, because they talk about design. You have to understand about the actual constraints, that if you're putting it in a Docker, what happens? If you're running on bare metal, what happens? These kind of things you cannot teach in online training or cohorts, because that is infrastructure intensive. Even certification exams, many people who have cleared certification exam, like I've personally seen people running a Kubernetes cluster with a single node and 4 pods on it. Technically, it is a Kubernetes cluster. Is it fault tolerant? No, because there is only one node. There is no redundancy. So their resume says we know how to do Kubernetes, but do they? No. Is anyone looking at how to upskill them or how to fix these problems? No. Can it be mentioned in the training requirements which are posted on LinkedIn, etc.? No, because HR doesn't care. They don't understand first to start with. It is not their job to understand. It is the engineering manager's job, or the project managers, whoever is requesting for training. It is their job to describe that these are exact 10 things which I want to get done. Tell your trainer to come and teach me these. How many trainers are going to adapt? Very few. In India, I doubt if any, not many. I won't say any because it's a pretty wide world, but I don't think many have worked long enough to keep adapting to the recent changes. Like Kubernetes, etc., has happened in the last 5 to 7 years, right? If somebody who has been training for last 15 years might have given a CKA certification, etc., they might have upskilled themselves, no doubt, but they haven't been in production with these issues. So they would have read up online, and they would be as informed as the individual, a curious individual would be. They don't have to do anything different. So then how's paying for training adding any value? Can it generate revenue? Yes. But for how long? That's the question. Is it equivalent to a 10-year career? I don't think so anymore. Maybe till 10, 15 years ago, it was doable. But now with LLMs and certification exam materials so freely available, I don't think. And certifications, again, they are just a hiring metric now. Like clearing a certification doesn't mean they will do well in production. They are very different things, right? In like the Kubernetes certification, I had also given it 5, 6 years ago, just before pandemic. You are working with a single node, and when you see a cluster of hundreds of nodes when you're dealing with, and if the SSL certificates expire, how do you go through changing all the SSL certificates without the cluster going down? Now, that's a challenge. You cannot automate that easily, even now. That's why you require an SRE, right? You don't need like a developer who knows how to spin a cluster. You need someone who understands what can go wrong, etc. And then, so these things you have to learn on the field on your own, and that's where LLMs are good. You take all the Kubernetes documentation, download it as HTML, upload in Google Notebooks, and start asking it questions. You get your answers. It's AI overview tries to do something similar, but downloading HTML and creating your own embedding is far more potent because it no longer has the confusion about the rest of the signals to hallucinate, right? With a 1 million token window, if you have all the HTML there for whatever version of Kubernetes you are running, you're good, you're solid. And now Google Notebook also attaches it to YouTube videos and the OpenWeb. So you can scrape more things after you have created an embedding. So again, this whole on-site training thing, this how to get these things done is what I can teach. But how many HR realize that this is something what the training AI training requires, right? They are like AI training means how to do Claude. You were typing, if you cannot even ask a proper question to an LLM which can answer almost everything under the sun, why are you even employed? Right? And it's true for everyone from intern to a CEO. If you don't know how to type, then that's the problem. No training can solve it. So this cohort-based thing, and another thing is pricing. Like how much do you charge? You know that it's a one-time thing, so you have to charge exorbitant amounts, and the reputation relies on that. If you don't deliver, then there is a bad rating, and then the word spreads in the market that this person overcharges for almost nothing. Market is full of such people. Like people build reputation on LinkedIn, etc. They know they will get only 100 trainings for 1 year, and then I mean that's my assumption that they know that they really don't have enough content to do a second round of training. That's the so might as well sell as much as possible in 2 3 months and disappear. YouTube, you have seen thousands of ads for these kind of gurus. I don't want to be one of them. So these options are also closed for me. And again, they are reputation based, and reputation can be manufactured. Online reputation can be manufactured because algorithms are not as sensitive to facts as one expects. So this door is almost as good as closed from. Anyway, let's move to the last one in the next lesson, and then we'll wrap up.